President Trump's turning the heat up on Canada, posting this morning on Truth Social, warning that tariffs on cars, trucks, and auto parts, and also steel, will jump 50% next year. The president says Canada has been taking advantage of the United States, and he says that stops now. This threat is coming after Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney vowed to hit back dollar for dollar with counter tariffs on U.S. goods, including steel and dairy. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer says Canada walked away from the best deal that was offered. Listen.
As President Trump has introduced a trade policy to reshore American production and protect American jobs, two countries have retaliated against the United States, the People's Republic of China and Canada. We've been offering to bring the Canadians along on that path, really to cut the tariffs on them, on steel, on tariff autos, even lumber, things that are sensitive for them. And they've always had the best deal, and they still would have an even better deal, but they didn't want that.
Oh, Canada. I'm not saying that they haven't been naughty, Marcus, but especially being up there with the PRC in terms of, kind of clapping back. But having said that, the president's got a lot on his plate right now, and obviously these are issues that will impact bond yields and the markets as well. And so is this the time to be dealing with Canada in this particular way?
Well, it is true that the deficit is $48 billion a year, but it also is true that Canada spends between goods and services $425 billion a year. And so that's your number one consumer of your goods and services. I'm not sure that I want to pick that fight today.
Right.
I mean, the deficit's all energy, isn't it? Isn't our trade deficit
100%.
Is 100%
Yep.
that we import heavy oil from them, and we need it. So we don't even have a trade deficit with them outside of energy.
But one of the issues is also tariffs in general on steel, on auto parts. People are complaining about affordability right now, and those feelings are real. The president's done the best that he can to try to bring Biden inflation down and try to bring Biden prices down. Not everything has come down, and that's why people are frustrated, even if the rate of inflation is lower now. So the increases are less than they have been in the past. Mike, I think about all of this and say, as a voter going into the midterms, me or anybody else out there looking at prices is not going to want to see higher prices as a result of tariffs on Canada right now.
Correct. However, I think what this boils down to is just fair trade. I don't think the president was targeting Canada for any reason except for the fact that what the policies that they had in place towards the United States. So President Trump was very clear on this, what he wanted. He wanted fair trade. They're negotiating back and forth. The market's not being spooked by this because I think it's a small portion of the total trade between both countries is what these tariffs are focused on. So we're going to get past it. It's not really a market-moving thing. We need as many friends around us as we can have. But President Trump's clear, though, if you're treating me this way, yes, I'm going to treat you back the same.
But what's unfair, though? What's unfair? Just somebody help me understand what I'm missing.
It seems that my understanding is that Canada was charging the United States tariffs, as President Trump often points to the farmers. I'm not exactly sure what those tariffs were, but assuming that's correct, then he's saying either you remove your tariffs on me and our people, or we're going to put tariffs on you and your people. I mean, if those are the facts, it's
so
fair.
of the $425 billion that they are consuming of our goods, you're saying there's tariffs in specific categories that feel that
unfair.
It's slowing down. So they're number one in terms of consuming of any country in the world. And so there has to be subsets of that $425 billion. What subsets? Is it the agriculture piece?
I have to get back to you on the exact.
And I would like to, and not today, but I want to get it at some point, because if I flip it the other side and I start thinking about lumber and steel, and we talk about cars and houses, those are two things that we measure how much they cost and how expensive they've gotten. Are we not putting ourselves into a worse situation today?
But can I throw something at you on that, too? Because I hear what you're saying. But part of the problem is, there's just a political reality here. Carney in Canada is in office because he got in a fight with President Trump.
Right.
That's the only reason he's in office. He would have lost that election. Poilievre would have been in office had you not had this whole fight. So Carney has an incentive to keep conflict going.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not saying our deal makers did the best job they could have. I have no opinion on that. I'm just saying that if we are if Canada becomes friends with us, Carney loses his reason for being in office, and that I think is one of the biggest impediments.
So I was going to ask you this, but you jumped there. But I'm going to frame
I know
it a
where you're
different
going,
way
Jackie.
because
I'm
that's
a mind
exactly where
reader.
I was going. And I'm saying to myself, if he walked away from what was truly a reasonable or good deal, what is going on with Carney? We know what his objective is, and therefore he's got TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, that is actually impairing him from being able to negotiate in the best interest of his country and be able to make a deal and smooth this over. Where does that get Canada? Where does that get us? But it brings me back to this general equation that I started with, or question that I started with, which is this the time right now to tackle the Canada issue?
There's probably never a good time, but I think this is a president that's trying to think long term. It maybe hurts today, but what then does this country look like 10 years from now? And Brian, I'll have a little bone to pick with you. You talked on air about going to an old kind of steel town, right, as you were doing a college tour with one of your kids.
Oil Town, yes. Emlenton, awesome.
Okay. And I'm thinking about relatives that I have in Pittsburgh, right, former steel town that's sort of been hollowed out. And then I look at Steel Dynamics today, Nucor, up as much as 3-6%, because this helps protect, and maybe that's more of an isolationist theory that people don't like, but it does help protect in many ways the U.S. industry. So I'm just trying to think about the transformation of those small towns that look so hollowed out, and what is maybe painful today, but then what can that look like 10 years from now?
I'm with you, but can I say I think that is way more China and way more Mexico than it is Canada on that front. I would argue.
That's fair.
That's all I'm going to say there. Like, we have adversaries around the globe who create national security threats. I think tariffs are great with them. I don't think Canada is going to conquer us. I think Canada is actually like a big weak neighbor to the north, and I think there are good times to fight with them, actually, but I would say figure out Iran first and then fight with Canada.
You're right about the steel, though, and retrenching our factories here and retrenching the cities. But to Brian's point, if you look at the amount of steel that comes in from China, it's far more daunting than what comes in from Canada. And the logistics cost to get it here, essentially, if making things more affordable, particularly housing, you need lumber and steel to come across that border in masses at lower prices. And I'd rather start negotiating on how to do that.
Right.
How do we make things more affordable by doing it?
Well, and that's the thing. When we pin, this idea of affordability down, and we also are in a housing crunch, part of it might be because of rates that, people would like to see their interest rate lower on what's available for a mortgage, but part of it is on a supply issue. And when costs are going up in housing, it's going to be hard for supply to be built. I know somebody who was pricing out windows and said literally windows for the house, because of the aluminum, because of oil and energy prices, have gone up 20%. And it was a massive number. And I thought to myself, how can anybody build a house if that's what's happening right now? And so these are the things that are happening sort of behind the scenes on a lower level that are making things tough right now. And even if these tariffs come into play next year, the anticipation of them drives those prices up immediately. And people feel that here. And those are the same people that'll be going to the ballot box in November before the midterm.
So hopefully we get a deal out of this. Hopefully ratcheting up the pressure does give us a deal.
Okay, we ratcheted up on Iran, and
I know.
we keep having to ratchet.
I'm with you. Like, I want the ratchet to loosen, prices to come down, and a great deal to happen. That's why you pay the deal makers to get a good deal.
That is true.
Canada deal coming very soon is my.
They sending you up there with.
I'm not going, but I think they can. I mean,
send Murphy up there to do the deal.
I'll go. I'm free. But yes, we'll get a deal with Canada.